Was this an entertaining sweep to you?
Nothing that the Celtics have done has been entertaining. And it's not it's not about them doing things. I think if you're somebody, if you're an NBA fan and this is your first time watching this version of the Celtics in the playoffs, you think to yourself, oh my gosh, 5-5-4, they're running through these things, right? They're running through these teams. There's nobody who can stop them. We've seen them be great. We've seen them flirt with all-time greatness, right? Think about, what was it? Ime Udoka's last year. Was that 2 years ago? 2 years ago? 3 years ago? I can't remember. Weren't they, statistically speaking, the greatest defense we had ever seen in NBA history, right? Like, we've seen them put together long stretches of regular season basketball and postseason basketball that is really, really good and jaw-dropping, spectacular, and then it all kind of peters out and they fall flat. Eventually, that has happened with this version of the Celtics, where at some point in the postseason, they just give you nothing, and then they're out of it, and you're left scratching your head like, how could they have been this good and then fallen like this when time comes, when it really matters? So for me, and I'm not sure if everybody else is like that, but for me, or like this, excuse me, for me, it is all about what they do now. Their season, they're one of the few teams in the NBA whose season starts in June. Right, nothing they do matters before June the 6th. From June 6th on, this will be how I judge the Celtics team. So I didn't get really excited or really low. You couldn't get really low on them. Hell, they were beating the hell out of everybody in the postseason. I can't get really excited about them because I want to see them finish. And it's about what happens now. They made light work of the Pacers, which they should have. It's something to be said about beating teams the way you're supposed to beat teams and handling business the way you're supposed to handle business. They made light work of the Pacers. They made light work of the Heat, made light work of the Cavs, all shorthanded. But whatever you play, who you have to play, they could have fumbled the bag and been 6-7 game series for all of them. No, they took care of business. There's something to be said about that. But the Celtics, their season starts now. June 6th is the first is game one of the NBA Finals. That's when I'll start getting up and down on the Celtics.
Right. It takes out of what the Celtics have done up until June 1, because this season was going to be deemed a failure if they did not make it to not the conference finals, but the NBA Finals, and they are now into that. They did not have to go through Giannis and Dame and the Milwaukee Bucks. They did not have to go through Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers, the teams that have been flirting in the orbit of the true competitors in the Eastern Conference. And then they get a Pacers team who ends up losing Tyrese Halliburton, isn't able to play yesterday, although Andrew Nembhard stepped up tremendously for that team. When I am on a trip and I'm prioritizing what games to watch, funny enough, I wanted to prioritize Timberwolves Mavs just because it felt like a more interesting series. However, by the time I sat down yesterday, I still, because of who the Celtics are, someday a team is going to come back down 3-0. It has never happened. It's going to happen someday. It wasn't going to be this Pacers team. I didn't think it was going to be this Pacers team. However, I was curious if the Pacers would steal a game because they came so close to stealing two more. We were this close to the Indiana Pacers either being up 2-1, or if they had won all three games, that they had a 90% chance of winning in the last 2 minutes of the game per the winning percentage opportunities, which sometimes is such a skewed graphic. But in this situation, it really was indicative of how the Pacers were playing. They just fell apart in the clutch time and time and time again. And the Celtics had more composure, but also the Pacers gave it away. That's where your Monday morning quarterback or Tuesday morning quarterbacking this whole thing and saying, did the Pacers throw it away or did the Celtics earn this series? The Celtics earned this series. Like, don't get in the weeds and get silly with it. But the Pacers also threw it away because they're still pushing it in transition in an elimination game, in a tight game down the stretch, and they're just turning it over. They're taking bad shots. It's like watching the last 2.5 minutes of that game last night was just chaotic, frenetic energy. And the Celtics weren't perfection either, but they did get more good plays from a variety of players, whether it be the big Derek White three or Jaylen Brown making big plays throughout. Jason Tatum ended the series missing a wide open three, which felt just how Jason Tatum has been. Still was good this series. Drew Holiday was good. You could have made a case for Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, or Drew Holiday to win Eastern Conference MVP. And it ends up going to Jaylen Brown, who said that he was surprised to win it because he never wins SHIT. He was left off All-NBA. Obviously, he's harboring some feelings about that.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hart, live every weekday at 8 a.m.